Support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Fenrir / Carlos from PPG here. I'm going to be profiling my blue flare deck list. I know I'm a new face here, but you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of me. So let's get right into it. So starting off with the eggs, we're going to have 4 Upamon and the 1 Baby Damon. So the objective for your eggs is just to draw as much as possible. Your opponent's almost always going to have 2 Digimon on the field. There's very few decks in the meta that don't, Wergaruru being one of those, but they're always going to drop a Gabu just to search, and that's going to trigger all of your effects. Alright, and then moving on to the rookies, we play a really low rookie count. I just don't think they're that important. You play enough Memboost where you can just hard drop your champions most of the time. But first we have the 4 Gaussmon. Obviously has to be a 4 of, because on deletion he plays any one of your level 4s suspended, but you will get their effects. So you get your search, you get your add back your metal gray, or you get your draw 5. And then the rest of the rookies, it's just a 2 Vmon, 2 Madoki Betamon split. I tried 4-1 for the other, but the halfway mark on both of these is just awesome, because sometimes I want to hard drop one, and one of them's just better in the back. Alright. Moving on to the champions. This is probably where your deck gets heavy. But the 4 Greymon and 4 Mailbirdmon, that's just gonna have to be in every blue flare deck list. I feel like a lot of people were kind of just not calling this deck as good as it should have been, but these are really strong effects. This one just plays your tamer, not really that important, but your search is very nice. Hard drop for 4, search top 4 of your deck at any 2 blue flare targets, and both of these serve as extra copies of your Metal Greymon. Every time your Metal Greymon is in the trash, you just drop one of these and they immediately on play, you have your tamer, you bounce this guy right back to your hand. Okay, the one that isn't a 4 of, and I guess up to preference you can bump it, is the Decadramon. He is really good, but your opponent has to have a lot of Digimon on the field for you to really get those draws. And like I said earlier, a lot of decks do have the going wide, but some decks don't. So he's really not that important, and besides that, the effect you get from the other level 5 might be a bit more useful from just having the 1-ofs. The last of the champions are the 2 red Greymons, because you want more Greymon targets. Right back to what I was saying, if your opponent doesn't go wide, they realize what your deck does, they see it's blue flare, they're like, oh, I just don't go wide, he can't hurt me. Wrong. You just hard drop for 3, you stun their board, and you can right off the bat rush, do 2 checks. That is really strong, and since you have the Mailbird, you'll still get an additional stun. So this is awesome into security control with some combos that I'll talk about later. But for the most part, you just really want those 2 checks. You don't need to unsuspend sometimes. You just want to poke real hard. And the last one is going to be a Kumamon. You have to play a hybrid. Blue hybrid's good. If you're going to play one, you're going to want to trash a card. Why not? You ditch their bottom Digivolution card, and you get to go in. Another interesting thing is, since all of your guys save under your tamers, sometimes you just have that extra bit of tamers, so you can go Kumamon over your tamer that has the red Greymon, and now your hybrid's doing 2 checks. Alright, moving on to the ultimates, the most important part of the deck for sure. The 4 Metal Greymon, he's got to be there. This guy is insane. 3 cost rush, stuns 3 dudes when attacking, stuns another Digimon, and restands or does 2 checks up to preference. Material save 2 on him is amazing, because that's what prompts your red Greymon to get under the tamer. So you can always just keep looping that up. Besides that, you're never going to run out of him. If you have 1 in rotation, that's 1 is enough. Sometimes your searches are better off getting your level 4s because they add the 1 copy back to hand. And then the other ultimate, Decker Greymon. I left off saying that, but Decker Greymon is really good. The 1 Digivolving Armor Perch is just, Armor Perch by itself should be good enough. Just because that way your guy doing 2 checks survives. If not, Decker Greymon says when Digivolving, you can attach any card with blue flare in straights from hand or from under your tamers. So now you can attach your Greymon, and your 10k armor perch is going for 2 checks and unsuspending when attacking. That's really strong. The other effect is just if you have a decker under him, you can just stun something, regardless of how many materials it has or no conditions, just stun a guy. You can stun Examon. That's one of the harder matchups for this deck. All right, moving on to Tamers. Nice and simple, you have to have 4 Kiriha. Most important guy in the deck. He's your memory tamer. He gets played for free by your options, and he lets you use sources from under your tamers. That's it, straightforward. 4 is a 4 of. I was playing 4 Sora Joe, but I found that I kind of need the space for more things, and a lot of the times your search effects do end up bottom decking them. So you want to have somewhere between 2 and 4. I think 3 is a good middle ground. 3 is fantastic. You still get to strip your opponent, and you still get to only bottom deck them sometimes. Moving on to options, it is very option heavy for my build anyways. I just enjoy options. I don't know what else to say. You want that sack factor in security. We'll start with this. This is just an easier. This could be Kakaida's Breath, but what I really like about this is you think that bouncing a level 6 or higher is some sort of restriction, but the best part about the effect is that if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon, its cost is reduced by 2. So if you have just your Tamer and a Sora Joe, and you're playing into, for example, Examon. Examon's end board is going to be the big stack level 7 and their 1 level 6. Just by them doing that, and you having a Sora Joe and a Tamer, you're immediately going to 5, and you can drop this for 5, bounce the Examon back to their hand. They can't do anything about that. It's just great to have a reduced Kakaida's Breath. The security effect is just bounce anything regardless, so that can sometimes save you. Next up is Rattlestar. Kind of the same idea. Bouncing a level 5 by itself doesn't seem that strong, but you can bounce some of the floodgates when you have enough of those Sora Joes. You can just use it without passing turn. Or, if it comes out of security or your opponent goes wide enough, you just bottom deck a big guy. No requirement on that. You just bottom deck either the Jesmon GX that's swinging at your security, or you bottom deck the Examon that made the mistake of going sideways. The 4 of, for sure, the most important thing. I keep saying that, but all the blue flare cards are important. This one's the best. You get to look through top 6 cards of your deck, add 2 blue flare cards, and play a Kiriha for free. You play your Tamer for free. So if you're hitting a Tamer even once off a single one of these effects, it's amazing. You immediately proc 2 search. You can usually figure out what you need. And delay, gain 2 memory. This deck stacks these a lot. You get your Sora Joes, you stack your Blazing Memory Boost, and over time, you're gonna have an insane amount of memory. You have one turn where you're just gonna pop. All right, another card. You're gonna notice a pattern here. A lot of the cards are interruptions for the opponent. Blue flare cards put in a lot of work by themselves, but the Sorais can really hold it down. You strip top 4, and you stun. That's it, nice and simple. Your opponent can't attack unless they Digivolve. Into Jesmon, this is beautiful. They set up a bunch of Sistermons, and you're like, wow, now he has to kill my Sistermons or stun them all. You just drop the Sorai, and now if they don't have Chimera, those Sistermons are off. And even more memory boost, the best thing you could do is just stack memory boost, because when you pop them all in one turn, you're gonna get it. 2 memory boost, free 3 cost stun. I feel like a lot of the times I just Howling memory boost to not pass turn because I'm left with some memory, but I don't want to go for it that turn. Just stack a memory boost and move on. And the last card, the best card in the deck, is an Icefall, because like you gotta play it's a 1-of. You gotta play the 1-of Icefall, let's be real. It's just too good. Your opponent's going mega wide, you're like, there's no way I lose, Icefall pass. That's it. Alright, this was the deck that caught the attention of the team. Every single time I've used this deck, I've topped. I don't know what to say. I know it seems option heavy and it can feel kind of bricky, but since I tried this build, I've only ever bricked exactly once. There's only been one hand that I'd say is completely unplayable. Every other time, you can usually tempo out your searchers, your Blazing Memory Boost, and just find the pieces you need to play. I know that the other version of this deck that runs a lot is the Magnamon X. I tried it. I didn't like it. I thought it was really bricky because you couldn't search any of those pieces, and it was too piece reliant, even more than the deck already is. So I think like you're fine playing it in the style of blue hybrids, where you have your pieces, you play your Tamers, and you just get to stuff a bunch of options in there to interrupt your opponent. So that's the profile, guys. Like I said, you'll be seeing a lot more from me. That's Fenrir, out.